It's Hump Day. You know what that means. Time for the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, here with SCWA's tech wizard, Diana Pardee. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m., the Southern California Writers Association welcomes a new writer to talk about their books and their writing. So take a break, grab a cup of coffee, and join us as we welcome Lani Forbes. Good morning, Lani.
Good morning.
Lani is the daughter of a librarian and an ex-drug smuggling surfer, which explains her passionate love of ocean and books. A former teacher turned MFT student, her passion is showing readers the transformative and encouraging power of story on the human experience. A California native whose parents live in Mexico, Lani now resides in the Pacific Northwest, where she tells us it's snowing again today, where she stubbornly wears flip-flops no matter how cold it gets. Oh, okay. We know you're a rebel. She's a proud nerd. Okay. Is it Gryffindor? Oh, Gryffindor. Okay. I got that. It's Wednesday. And a member of Romance Writers of America, the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and author of The Seventh Son and her latest novel, Jade Bones. So welcome again, Lani.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
So we first met when you submitted a short story to the Southern California Writers Association anthology,
Yes.
Magdalena, which I read right away because that's so close to my name, and I loved, and it got singled out in a lot of people's reviews. So we knew right away that you had writing talent, and then you moved, and then I saw The Seventh Son came out. You got the deal on The Seventh Son, and now Jade Bones is out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So do you want to talk a little bit about what people can expect when they read one of the series, or I'll let you talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about the Jade Bones. It's book 2 in my Age of the Seventh Son series.
Do you have it there to show that everybody the stunning cover?
Oh, let me grab it. Yes. So this is the cover. This is book 2, the Jade Bones. It is, you said, the second book in the series. It's actually going to be a trilogy. And so I just started working on edits for book 3 with my editor this week. So that's pretty exciting. And then book 1 is The Seventh Son. And it's a young adult fantasy series. So it's fantasy, there's magic, there's romance, there's all the fun stuff that young adults love in books. But then it's based on a fantasy world inspired by ancient Mesoamerica. So it's a totally unique world that has these really cool elements from different Mesoamerican mythologies. And it's just a really exciting story. And so I like to pitch book 1 as kind of The Hunger Games meets The Bachelor. So book 1 is basically the emperor has died. And so his son is about to ascend to the throne, and so he must select a wife from one of the daughters of the noble of all the city-states. But the ones he doesn't pick are going to be sacrificed to bless his marriage to the one he does pick. So it's kind of The Bachelor meets The Hunger Games, where literally you have to get picked or you die. So that's kind of the huge tension of book 1. And then, not to have any spoilers for book 2, there's a rather large twist at the end of book 1 that finds our main characters in the underworld. And so book 2 is really their story of transversing and escaping the underworld.
Wow. I'm feeling this strong mythological background and historical link in those, because those themes are so important and so big. You know, when you talk about stakes, those are the biggest stakes that people can imagine. So how did the story come about? Did you have the characters first and decide where to set it, or did you have this epic saga laying out or playing out in your mind, and then you figured out how it went? How did you approach this?
Well, like I said, my parents actually live in Mexico. And so I've always been really interested in ancient Mesoamerican history specifically. And so I was studying some of the mythology, and this idea just came into my head. It's really inspired by the myth of the 5 sons, this idea that the world has been created and destroyed multiple times, and that they believe they have to follow these rules and rituals or else the world will be destroyed again. And so for some reason, I was really intrigued by that idea. And the story really started with my main character, Mayana, because I don't know, I pictured how difficult of a struggle or how much tension it would be for a character in this world where you have to follow these rules or literally the world will end. And what do you do if you struggle with some of those rules, or if you don't agree with some of those rules, or if you question why some of those rules are in place? And that's to me a universal human theme that I really related to. And so I was really intrigued with her character. And her name actually means hungry. And so this idea that like she's hungry for the truth, she's hungry to find out more about why do we do things this way. And so I really like that idea. And so the story really grew out of her character. And then I don't know, just I've always been a fan of The Bachelor. Unfortunately, I'm kind of ashamed to admit that. It's really, especially when you're in quarantine, there's not a whole lot of stuff to watch. And so of course
It's insidious. Yeah.
yeah. And so I don't know, just it intrigued me how, I don't know, how popular that show is, even though like you watch it and you're like, this is so stupid, but then you're watching it and you're like, why can't I stop?
But I can't quit you.
I can't stop watching it. And so I don't know, I just was really intrigued with how that whole concept. And so yeah, the story really kind of started to come together from there.
So I mean, and you blended that in such a believable, rich way. The scenery, the characters, and I think the covers do such a great job illustrating how rich the story feels. And so I also had a question. How did you decide, or why did you decide to write it as a YA novel? And if you wrote it for adults, would you write it any differently?
Well, I think the interesting thing about YA, especially right now, is there is a lot of crossover, I think, with adult. In fact, most of the readers that I meet actually are adults, and I love reading YA literature. I just think the emotions are so much more intense, especially when you've got these younger characters that just feel things so much more intensely. And I was a teacher for 10 years and I taught middle school and high school. And so I don't know, just I really related to that age group and I love the emotional intensity of that age group. And so I really wanted to kind of I really wanted to channel that into the story specifically. There's definitely some darker themes, especially when you're dealing with issues like blood sacrifice and
Hey, can I read you that my line that we talked about before? It
Mhm.
said, "A river of blood and demons disguised as children are only two of the challenges standing in their way." I was like, oh, I did just the visual of that was incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
especially for book two. Book two's definitely got some pretty scary elements to it. I drew a lot from the Popol Vuh, which is the Maya book of mythology, and so there's a lot of myths around the underworld Xibalba, and so I tried to, when kind of designing my version of the underworld, wanted to stay as true to some of the actual obstacles that are mentioned. And so yeah, like for example, the river of blood and the demons disguised as children, and there's a river of scorpions, and there's a lot of these really kind of creepy scary things that they go through. But that's because I wanted to try to remain as true to the original mythology of the underworld as possible.
so when you were doing this research, because it sounds like you did a lot of research, what was the most surprising thing that you uncovered?
Well, one of the most interesting things is, so in the original Xibalba mythology, there's the part of what you have to cross is three rivers. And so there's supposed to be a river of blood, a river of scorpions, and a river of pus. And I just could not do the river of pus. I couldn't do it.
Thank you.
I can't make my characters go through that. So I changed that to more of a marsh in the story. But yeah, that was really one of the interesting things. And I actually got to go down to Guatemala and Belize as part of doing research and getting to go to some of these places. And so one of the really cool things I got to do was I actually got to go to some caves in Belize that they believe might have been what was considered the entrance to Xibalba. And so it's interesting is to hike to even get to the caves, you have to cross three rivers. And so that was really interesting to me that we had to literally cross like chest deep these rivers in order to even get to the cave. And so part of me is wondering like, wow, I wonder if that played into the mythology at all of the three rivers in order to get to Xibalba. So I thought that was kind of cool.
When you were crossing those rivers chest deep in the water, did you ever ask yourself, what am I doing here? Why, why am I here?
It was probably one of the biggest adventures I've ever been on in my life. And I would recommend it to anybody that ever gets a chance to go to Belize. It was incredible. Yeah, literally hiking through the jungle for about an hour to get to where the caves are. And then you're in the caves for about 3 to 4 hours. And you actually get to see skeletons of sacrifice victims and artifacts. And just learning so much about the mythology and getting to see it and actually like crawl into the cave itself. And some parts of it were like kind of scary, where literally like, you have to turn your head like just right in order to get through, and do not recommend it if you're claustrophobic at all. But it was cool to get to experience it as an author too, because I felt like when I was writing some of these scenes, I was able to draw on actual experience of like, okay, I remember crossing 3 rivers to get there. And so that part was pretty cool.
So as I was listening to you speak, I was thinking, this book, when you say it's YA, it's not YA necessarily in terms of age, but in terms of type and genre and story content and all of those things. So who who do you think would enjoy this book? What kind of reader? What would readers be looking for in a book that would enjoy Seventh Son and Jade Bones?
Yeah, I definitely think a little bit more of an older teen audience would enjoy it the most, just because, like I said, some of the darker content and some of the scarier elements. But I also
And
think like
me?
I think a young adult and even adult audience would enjoy it, especially like if you were the kind of person who really enjoyed the Hunger Games series. There's a lot of really mature adult themes and ideas that come up in the Hunger Games, and so I think that's very much, if you enjoyed those kind of stories, I think you would very much enjoy the Seven Son series.
And so we were talking also before. So we have The Seventh Son, which is your first book. We have Jade Bones, which is your second. And what's happening with your third book?
So book 3 is scheduled to release February of next year, so February 2022. We're working on edits with it right now, and we're hoping to have the advanced reader copies available this fall, is kind of the tentative schedule with my publisher. And so I'm really excited. Book 3 is right now, so it's all kind of tentative because we're finishing it up, but right now book 3 is going to be titled The Obsidian Butterfly.
Oh, I can't wait for the cover for that. Uh, did you have the same cover artist do both books? And are you going to have the same one for the third book? Oh,
Yeah, she's incredible. She's an artist through Blackstone Publishing. Her name's Catherine English, and she is absolutely amazing. We kind of brainstormed together on what I was thinking for the covers, because I knew I really wanted a black background, because I really kind of wanted to communicate the kind of the darkness of the themes and some of the darkness of the story. But then I love this idea of a golden sun, and the actual dagger on the front of the seventh son, that was her idea to add. And then for the Jade Bones, I had the idea of the necklace, because it plays a big part in the story. There's a necklace that is rather important in book 2. So I'm really curious to see what we come up with for book 3. So
well, I'm excited. We have people watching us live on Facebook. So if you have questions or comments for Lani, please feel free to put them in the comments section, and hopefully you'll check in the video and answer questions throughout the course of the week or days.
yeah.
So feel free, if you're watching this, to go ahead and do that and engage. She's one of us, so if you can support her, we appreciate that very much. We're proud to be associated with you, and excited for all the success that you've had.
Thank you.
So where can people find your books?
Anywhere books are sold, it's available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. I'm a huge supporter of local bookstores if you can, just especially with the current climate and everything that's going on in the world. I know a lot of independent bookstores are really struggling. So if at all possible, you can order from indiebound.com, which is a great resource because it'll actually ship to whatever is your local independent bookstore. So right now I live here in Boise, and so I love working with Rediscovered Books, which is our local independent bookstore here in Boise. And if you order through them, actually they do ship, and I can sign and personalize any books if you order through them. So.
And what was the name of that again? Rediscovered Books?
Yeah, Rediscovered Books, which I think the website is rdbooks.org.
Okay. All right, good. I'm writing that down now so I can get my copy for sure. All right. Well, hopefully you'll come back when book 3 is out. And until then, stay safe, and we hope to see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
All right, everybody, if you enjoyed this book shot, please tell your friends, and find us on YouTube on the SCWA Writers Online. If you'd like to share this video, you can share it on Facebook or on our YouTube page. All right. Until then, we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.